United 93, Cleveland. United 93, Cleveland, if you hear the center ident. The captain, please sit down. Keep remaining sitting. We have a ball aboard.
Tuesday, 9:47 a.m.
Hi, baby. Baby, you have to listen to me carefully. I'm on a plane that's been hijacked. I'm on the plane. I'm calling from the plane. I want to tell you I love you. Please tell my children that I love them very much. I hope to be able to see your face again, baby. I love you. Bye.
Dez anos depois, as lembranças ainda estão vivas na memória de quem esteve envolvido diretamente no pior ataque contra os Estados Unidos. Personagens do 11 de setembro. Pessoas que perderam parentes, sobreviveram aos atentados minutos depois que as Torres Gêmeas foram atingidas em Nova York. Esse prédio, que é a sede das Forças Armadas Americanas, foi sacudido pelo impacto de um Boeing 757 de 80 toneladas, carregado com 37 mil litros de combustível, voando a 800 quilômetros por hora em aceleração máxima. Eram 9h37 da manhã, aqui em Washington. O maior e mais seguro edifício de escritórios do mundo foi alvo de um ataque que feriu o orgulho americano. O Pentágono é uma estrutura gigantesca formada por 5 setores, que abriga o Departamento de Defesa americano. Tem 604 mil metros quadrados de área. Coincidentemente, a construção do Pentágono começou no dia 11 de setembro de 41. Exatamente 60 anos antes do ataque que quase destruiu o prédio. Foi erguido durante a Segunda Guerra Mundial em apenas 16 meses. O centro de comando de uma das maiores forças militares do mundo, o Pentágono se tornou um alvo para o terror. A tragédia aqui poderia ter sido ainda pior. O Boeing 757 da American Airlines atingiu a face oeste do prédio de 5 andares. Aquela ali, onde as pedras de revestimento ainda estão um pouco mais claras. Aquela parte havia passado por uma reforma recente. Poucas pessoas estavam trabalhando lá. Se o choque tivesse sido em outra parte desse edifício que tem 5 lados iguais, o número de 125 mortes em terra ia ser muito maior. Mais de 20 mil pessoas trabalhavam no Pentágono naquela manhã de 11 de setembro. Na seção atingida, funcionava o Centro de Comando Militar. A reforma no lado oeste do prédio incluiu modificações nas janelas, que foram reforçadas com Kevlar, um material resistente ao calor e 7 vezes mais forte que o aço. Foram modernizações que salvaram muitas vidas. O Boeing 757 bateu justamente na parte do prédio que estava mais preparada para um ataque dessa magnitude. John Yates, um funcionário civil, estava em uma sala no lado atingido. Passados 10 anos, ele não sabe como conseguiu escapar.
For a long time, I asked, why me? Why was I spared? I mean, I was standing in the middle of 5 people. I had 2 people to my left and 2 people to my right, and none of them survived. You know, why?
O avião bateu num andar abaixo do escritório onde ele trabalhava, apenas 30 metros no interior do Pentágono. Apesar do forte impacto e do fogo, a área atingida resistiu por 30 minutos antes de desabar.
My memories are still very vivid I don't know, can't remember everything that happened that day. I do remember that I'm standing there. I had just stood up and had started to turn to leave when the plane hit, and there was just a most tremendous explosion, and a large ball of fire came from behind me and from my left. And I remember seeing the fire as it rolled across the ceiling. I was blown through the air. At the time, I had no idea where I was. The room was instantly black. It was dark. It was like somebody had turned off the sun. The smoke was down to within about a foot of the floor, and the temperature in the room, the doctors told me later on, was about 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything I touched burned me. The floor, the carpet tiles were hot. I was completely by myself finding my way out. I remember vividly that when I got out into the center court, or got out into the corridor rather, I looked down at my hands and I had just strings of flesh hanging off of my fingers, kind of like a sausage that you've boiled too long and the casing just explodes. That's the way my fingers looked. Didn't hurt because they had burned all my nerve endings. All my nerve endings had been burned away.
John Yates teve 35% do corpo queimado, mas ele tem outras cicatrizes que levam mais tempo para desaparecer.
I have post-traumatic stress disorder, okay? I was not the same person I was when I went to work that morning. I've been working with a therapist once a week for the last 9.5 years.
O voo 77 da American Airlines, que bateu no Pentágono, decolou do aeroporto de Dulles às 8 horas e 20 minutos rumo a Los Angeles, na costa oeste. Com aproximadamente 35 minutos de voo, 10 minutos depois da primeira torre do World Trade Center ser atingida, os 5 terroristas tomaram o controle do avião. No cockpit, o saudita Hani Hanjour fez um giro de 180 graus sobre o estado de Ohio e tomou o rumo de volta a Washington, pouco antes das 9 horas. O drama dos 53 passageiros e 6 tripulantes do voo 77 ainda durou mais 30 minutos, até as 9h37, quando o Boeing bateu na face oeste do Pentágono. Além de ter esse lado reconstruído, o prédio foi completamente reformado. Nessa imagem, vemos uma sala que é totalmente nova. Ela fica na parte atingida pelo Boeing 757. Hoje, um memorial homenageia os mortos no atentado. Esses 184 bancos representam as vidas que foram perdidas aqui. Eles estão organizados em ordem cronológica pela data de nascimento. A mais nova era Dana Falkenberg. Estava a bordo do voo 77 e tinha apenas 3 anos de idade. O mais velho, o capitão aposentado John Yamnicki. Ele tinha 71 anos. Os bancos estão em posições diferentes. Se você lê o nome da pessoa e está de frente para o Pentágono, esta pessoa estava no edifício na hora do ataque. Se o banco estiver na posição contrária, a vítima morreu no avião. Uma das tripulantes do voo 77 era a aeromoça Michelle Heidenberger. O marido dela, um ex-piloto da US Airways, acompanhou tudo com a angústia de quem conhece a rotina de um voo comercial.
I work for US Airways. For US Airways. And the chief pilot in Washington for American was a personal friend. I call him up and I get through to him and his first words were, "I'm sorry." And I go like, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "There's something wrong with Michelle's flight." And then I asked him, look, we're both professionals, we both know the drill, how's it look? And he says, it doesn't look good. And then he asked me to call him back a little while later, and he'd get me more information. Now mind you, at this time, Michelle was still alive. 20 minutes go by, I don't hear anything, I call him up. He just said, he didn't have any more news, and he just said it didn't look good. So then, at that time, I knew something was wrong. Did I believe it? No. But you get into the mindset and the mode to prepare for the worst. So I immediately called my son, not my son, but I called his school up. And I said, yank him out of the classroom, sequester him, and I'll have somebody pick him up. I did the same with my daughter. They sequestered her. Fortunately, they're both in the area. Can you imagine if I was at work I couldn't have gotten home for 3 days.
Right.
So I had the good fortune of being able to talk and tell my children personally that their mother was killed.
September 11, 2001, minutes after 9:37, you were one of the first to arrive here. What did you see?
Yes. After responding, running to the building itself, it was burning, big hole, windows was busted out. The setup they have now is, they renovate the whole place, but there used to be big trees. All those trees was disintegrated. The doors, a couple of the entrance doors was blown out. A lot of people was, calling out, crying, and asking for it. Very fortunate being at the right place at the right time to assist and help people.
Somebody stick to your mind? Any person you helped out?
Yeah, there were several of them, but one that I usually stay in touch every year for the past 10 years now is Wayne Sinclair. We're became friends, and the way how we met is he was one of the burn victims. I went in there, yelled, and I was calling out, come towards my voice, head towards my voice, I'm over here, is anybody in here? And I heard people calling out, I'm here. Somebody popped off from smoke to the area, put him on my shoulders, took him out. We became friends. Again, he was badly burned, about 85% of his body. But I didn't get to meet him 2 weeks afterwards because he was in a burn center in Washington, D.C.
Qual seria o próximo alvo dos terroristas? No momento dos ataques, 4.000 aviões estavam no ar no espaço aéreo americano. O voo 93 da United Airlines, nas mãos dos homens da Al-Qaeda, tomava o rumo da capital dos Estados Unidos. Mas nesse avião a história foi diferente. Os 37 passageiros e 4 tripulantes, sabendo dos outros ataques, impediram que a vitória do terror fosse completa. E já que a morte estava quase certa, decidiram morrer heroicamente.
Hey, this is a suicide mission. We have to do something. They are not going to land this plane. They are not going to take us back to the airport. I don't think there's any other option we have.
We're going to die. We're going to die. They're flying this into a building. We're going to die. You should not interfere. There's a lot of us. We got to do something.
Jack, are you there? Wake up, sweetie.
Jack Grant Colas não conseguiu falar com a mulher Lauren, que estava no voo 93. Ele ouviu um recado deixado por ela na secretária eletrônica.
I miss Lauren every day. I wear a bracelet, I kiss it, I say a prayer to her. I know she's there. She's helped me get along. She's helped me get to where I am. She's helped me meet a new person. She called from the airport to say that she was on an earlier flight. Finally, I woke up probably just a little after 7, ironically, at about the same time that her flight had crashed. And remember looking at the sky from the bedroom window and just noticing it was a weird-looking day. It wasn't cloudy, it wasn't sunny, it was just a very weird sky. And a lot of people think I'm crazy when I say this, or I hesitate to say it because not many people believe it, but I remember seeing the embossment of what looked like an angel blinking, going up to the sky. And I thought to myself, who do I know that just died? That's when I went downstairs to find her first message, which was, "Hi honey, I'm on an earlier flight. I'll get home sooner and should be landing about this time, and look forward to seeing you." Very cheerful, like anyone would be. The next message was a different message. It was a calm, collected message, but it had a little bit more urgency to it. And she said, "Jack, honey, can you hear me? Pick up. Okay, there's just a little problem on the plane. I'm totally fine for now. I'm comfortable. Just want you to know I love you more than anything. Just know that. Just a little problem." Says I'll, like we all do when we say, "I'll call you back, I'll call you later." She stops herself. And I think that she realizes she didn't want to leave a promise she couldn't keep, which was incredible and very typical of Lauren. And then she said, just a little problem, as if they were going to take care of it. And then she said, "Please know that I love you more than anything. Tell my family I love them too. Goodbye. And that's when I realized she was on the flight, because on the TV downstairs was a picture of the crash site in Shanksville, and they were explaining it was a flight from Newark.
I just love you more than anything. Know that. Please tell my family I love them too. Bye, honey.
I think everybody on that flight was a hero. I'm very proud of her participation. This was a flight that didn't succeed in its mission.
A irmã do copiloto, Leroy Homer, não teve a chance de uma despedida. Ficou sabendo da morte do irmão pela televisão.
On TV, they were flashing information about the Red Cross and, all these different organizations if you have questions. And I said, well, and being a lawyer, I had lots of questions, Have we called United? Have you confirmed that he actually got on this flight? And it just, millions of, have they found any survivors? How do you know? This can't be true. And I didn't really believe it, and I wasn't really fully processing anything that was really happening that day. And it wasn't until I saw flashing on the bottom of the screen of the TV, they started listing the passengers and crew members from the various flights. So when I saw his name, I don't know, at that point it became more real and tangible. So
o primeiro telefonema de despedida do voo 93 não foi dado de dentro do avião. O autor foi um dos terroristas, Ziad Jarrah, que cerca de 1 hora antes do embarque ligou para sua noiva, Aicel Senguén, que se recuperava de uma pequena cirurgia na Alemanha. O terrorista embarcou no Boeing 757 da United Airlines em Newark, Nova Jersey. O voo 93 decolou às 8h42 da manhã. O Boeing 757 tinha 44 pessoas a bordo que iam para São Francisco, na Califórnia, do outro lado do país. Os passageiros do voo 93 foram os que viveram os momentos mais aterrorizantes do dia dos ataques. Porque os homens e mulheres que viajavam no último avião a ser usado pelos terroristas tiveram a noção exata do destino trágico que tinham pela frente. E eles protagonizaram a história que gerou o maior sentimento de orgulho em meio a tanta dor e sofrimento.
That makes me so proud, it's unreal. Someone that would risk their life to try to save other people. What more could you ask for?
Feeling of sorrow for them because of their fate, but then immediately turns to pride.
A cerca do local provisório de homenagens é cheia de lembranças. Bandeiras dos Estados Unidos, uma bandeira alemã, flores, lenços e mensagens. Essa aqui agradece, diz obrigado pelo seu sacrifício. Vocês colocaram as nossas vidas, nós que estamos do lado de cada cerca, acima da vida de vocês mesmos.
Can I get something for you?
Os 4 terroristas tomaram o controle do avião pouco antes das 9h30, 10 minutos antes do atentado ao Pentágono e mais de 40 minutos depois dos ataques às Torres Gêmeas. Às 5:50 da manhã, Ziad Jarrah reprogramou o sistema de navegação do avião. A nova direção apontava para o aeroporto Reagan, em Washington, a pouco mais de 6 quilômetros da Casa Branca. O Boeing começou uma rápida descida, a 1.200 metros por minuto, e continuou descendo num ritmo irregular, o que indicaria uma luta dentro da cabine. Depois da luta na cabine de comando, o Boeing da United Airlines acabou caindo nesse campo perto da cidadezinha de Shanksville, aqui no estado da Pensilvânia. Esse local fica a cerca de 200 quilômetros de Washington, onde o Capitólio, ao que tudo indica, era o alvo do ataque. O Boeing 757 veio voando a muito baixa altitude, de cabeça para baixo, acima daquela colina, e atingiu o solo ali, onde estão aquelas pequenas bandeiras americanas.
United 93, Cleveland.
Esse é um local onde só os familiares podem pisar, porque os restos das vítimas ainda estão no solo. No memorial, encontramos Joanne Perkautz, prima de Richard Guadagno, um dos passageiros. I saw you walking in the field. What do you feel really in that area?
I was looking to see, Richard, if you're here, give us a sign. Let us know you're still here.
Mesmo sem qualquer propaganda, o memorial provisório no local da queda do voo 93 recebe 150 mil visitantes por ano. O memorial só vai ficar totalmente pronto em 2014. Um longo caminho vai levar até a área do desastre, onde um muro de mármore vai lembrar os 40 mortos no avião, sem contar os 4 terroristas. Está prevista a construção de um grande portal de entrada, uma torre e 40 alamedas ao redor do local onde o avião caiu, chamado de Campo de Honra. Diferentemente dos locais dos atentados nas áreas urbanas de Washington e Nova York, integrados ao ritmo de vida acelerado das metrópoles, a rural Shanksville se tornou uma espécie de santuário. Um lugar em que as pessoas se dirigem exclusivamente para render homenagens e lembrar das vítimas do voo 93. Passados 10 anos do dia inesquecível para todos nós, os principais personagens dessa tragédia humana encontraram um jeito de seguir em frente.
You have to. Living is for the survivors. Michelle would always say, in her brief life, she would always say, get over it, move on. And this is what we as a family are trying to do.
I don't take things for granted, you know. Enjoy life to the fullest. And just knowing that it's unfortunate something like this happened, or, you know, taking people's lives.
My reason for surviving was to tell my story. This is what happened to me that day.